Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Culture Podcast. It's been a minute, been a little while since the Aussie Open. We haven't dropped one since the Aussie Open. So, we're back in the saddle and ready to go.
Yeah, there's lots to talk about, but we've got a pretty interesting topic that someone brought up to us last night at adult class.
Yeah, so we ran a Wilson demo day. Shout out to Wilson. Got some really cool products on the line at the moment. The new Clash.
Yes.
Feels amazing.
Yes, and it's quite angelic racket.
Yes, that's what I've heard. But yeah, last night a few of our clients said that they listened to the podcast, and they said that one of the topics they'd love to hear about is the mental game of tennis and how to overcome certain obstacles such as being nervous on the court. And I thought that'd be a good topic to, I guess, start with. But it is one of those things that when you first start competing after playing a recreational kind of group coaching setting, privates, going into your first tournament, it can be pretty daunting, can't it?
Yeah, especially when you're competing for the first time, right? Like it's almost like you got to go through a development stage of playing matches and go through when you're first starting off in your tennis classes. And then the next step is sort of playing a fun type of competition where there's very little stress and it just kind of slowly builds over time, I guess. But yeah, it's interesting when players come to get lessons for the first time, especially adults, they always feel like the competition is such a daunting task. It's not even a goal for theirs.
Yeah.
But it's a goal for us. We want them to play because we know how fun matches can be if you play it with the right spirit and the right people, I guess, is the key thing.
I think you got to accept the fact that when you first start playing, you're going to suck for a bit, and it's okay to do that.
It's okay. Yeah,
it's the same with anything. Remember the first time we tried boxing, just sparring?
Oh my gosh,
we were horrible.
Like the running away, like I couldn't avoid that. As soon as you threw a punch, you're like, I'm out of here. Where's the door?
But when you play, I think because tennis is such a results-based sport, and it's also such an individual sport. Even when you do play doubles, it's you and one other person, but you've only really got yourself to blame for your results, winning or losing. So that's pretty daunting in itself. But some of the things I think you can take away when you're first starting to play matches, or whether it be a pennant or a comp, or even if you're going down playing a social hit and giggle, but in a match play format, I think something that you have to be aware of is you don't want to be scared to miss.
Yeah.
You don't want to be scared to make mistakes, because even at the top level, and I love using this example, is that if Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic, they make 20, 30, 40 errors in a match.
Yeah, heaps.
It's so many. So don't think that you're going to go out there and hit every single ball in. But if you're going to start to develop a match play game, you want to be able to do it with full confidence.
Yeah.
And the only way you can do that is to not be scared to miss. I'm not saying go out and hit it 100 miles an hour, but you rather make those errors by giving it that little bit more, not being so reserved.
I agree. I reckon there's also something to do with player identity. So this sounds like game styles. Like how you want to play.
Okay.
So the coolest thing about tennis and any sport, I guess, is you play the way you want to play. So I always try to encourage young players. Like for example, if you're an aggressive baseliner, then play aggressive. Then every point you play, don't overthink it. Just play your aggressive style and play your natural feeling and go for it. If you're a serve volleyer, you know what to do. Just go forward and trust your strokes and go for it. So I think that's one of the fun things about people who are starting to get into competition. How do you want to play? Do you want to play with a big forehand? I want to play like Roger. I want to play like Rafa. I want to make 1,000,000 balls and run all day. Then work that game and play that style kind of all the time. I mean, obviously work on plan B, plan C. That's all tactics and stuff. But generally, like player identity, I like to call it, where you sort of understand who you are as a player. Yeah,
I like that. You got to have some sort of plan, go out there and try and execute. On the flip side of committing and being confident with your play, you also, I think, need to also understand that not every single ball you get in a match play scenario is going to be as nice and friendly as a coaching scenario, a friendly scenario. We see this all the time as coaches, and if you're a player, you probably feel like, I can play so much better in training than I can in matches. And a lot of it, yes, is the lack of pressure that's in coaching. There's no, you miss a ball in coaching. You don't get punished by losing a point. The ball just gets fed to you. But we see it all the time. As soon as we even start going into rally or match play within a coaching session, there's such a wider variety of shots that you get given that a coach isn't sort of spoon feeding you onto the racket.
Correct.
So you're going to get so much more variety, and you got to understand that that's scrappy. It's not pretty. You know, you got to go out there and win ugly sometimes. So when you do get a ball that's way above your head or out of reach or got a bit of weird spin on it, sometimes you do have to just block that ball back, get yourself set for the next one, and then, you know, when you're in a better position, be able to play those balls with more confidence. Not everything is going to look all polished when you first start playing, and that's okay.
Exactly, I agree. And I think you got to almost put a positive spin on it. So, for example, if you're playing rallies and points and you get that variety, instead of going, oh, this is so hard, like, oh, the slice balls are so low, topspin balls are so high. I don't know why people talk like that, but you enjoy the fact that every single tennis ball and every single tennis shot, I love this fact, I celebrate this fact, is different. You never get the same ball twice in a row identical. You get similar ball, but never the same ball twice in a row. And the other thing too, at the lower end of competition, like for example, when I say lower end, I mean, I'm talking, your skill level wise, no disrespect. But at the lower entry level, you get way more variety.
Agreed. So
much variety, not only of game styles, but just even like, if I'm a level 7, Division 7 pennant player, or Canberra League player now it's called, I'm going to hit a forehand. I'll hit 10 forehands. They'll all be different. Whereas a high-level player will probably hit 10 forehands. They'll be kind of the same. So at the beginning level, you get such variety. So one of the things I think you focus on the most is footwork and tracking. The swing stuff and everything sort of gets there over time, and you build confidence in that. You do work on that. But I think that tracking part and being aware, balls are going to be weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I probably use that line where all the time in coaching, I tell people that 90% of the balls that you miss are not due to swing problems, they're due to positioning problems.
Yes.
Because if I was to make a ball appear out of thin air and it be perfectly placed in front of you, waiting to be hit, you will hit the same forehand 10 times in a row, almost identical. But when the ball is an inch higher, lower, left, right, you have to play a different swing. It's a completely different swing. So it's... most of the balls that you do miss, it is more of a positioning and tracking problem. I do agree. I also got to agree with you. We're agreeing a lot today. This is weird.
I think we're on
I
the same
agree.
page.
I agree a lot with you in the sense that the lower level of play, and again, this is no disrespect, but just when you're first beginning and starting off, there's so much more variety of what you get. And I'll give you a good example. I started playing pennant, local pennant around here. Wanted to play Division 1. And I'm playing with a couple of the younger guys, kids that I coach. So they said, look, why don't you start off, go Division 2, make sure they can handle it and, build your way up. Now, I've played doubles at a quite high level before, and I love poaching. For those who don't know, poaching, you're the net player while your partner's serving, you go across, try and, cut the volley off. And I love doing it. It's one of my favorite things to do.
You're good at that, for sure.
When I play at a high level, I've pretty much got two options. I'm going to poach because they're going to return hard and fast cross court, or I'm going to hold my ground because they're going to go hard and fast at my line. It's very rare I get a lob or something different because it's so fast. It's like a quick split decision here, split decision there. I'm finding it harder to poach in Division 2.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more variety.
Yeah.
They're not just going, roll it cross court or roll it down the line. They're throwing up a loopy lob. They're chipping one, with ridiculous amounts of backspin. They are holding off on their swing and swinging at such a slower rate that if I react too early, I leave something completely open. I'm having a really hard time poaching to the level that I know I can at a lower level, and it's because of that variety. And I just think that if you're committed to a particular game style, like you said, and you're committed to improving your tracking and your positioning, I think you're doing all the hard work early in this, early stages of competition. And when you start climbing the ladder higher and higher level, it actually becomes a little bit easier to read.
More predictable, yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I agree. And, the shots, it gets to this point where, a certain serve will get a certain return, a certain type of spin will get a certain reaction. And you kind of know it. You kind of sixth sense it to a certain degree. You just do it unconsciously or subconsciously is the correct phrase. So yeah, it's so hard at that lower level, and it's a good way of putting it. You put all your hard work early when you start competition.
Yeah,
I like that because it makes everyone aware that first bit is the hardest bit.
Yeah,
it's the tricky bit because it's just so random.
Well, here's an analogy for you. Let's think about it like going to the gym. Right? Imagine you've never lifted a weight before in your life, and you start going to the gym. And those first time you do a weighted squat, the first time you try and do a pull up, first time you do bench press, all these things, they're so hard. But if you stick with it early, you see a a lot of quick progressions.
Yeah.
Right?
You
That's
start
where
getting some comfort.
Yeah, and you take big leaps early. And then the more and more you go, you notice that your improvements start, they start shrinking.
Getting smaller. It's the little
it's
things.
like, I can go up another, kilo and a half here, kilo and a half here. I can do 1 or 2 more reps. That's kind of how it is in tennis. When you first go in, everything's hard. Yet, if you stick with it, you see mass improvement. And then the higher and higher level you go, there's less to kind of work with. Like you said, there's a lot less options. But you need to be stronger in order to stay at that level. So anyone who is playing competition, please stick with it. Forget results.
That's the key.
Get rid of results. Get results out of your head, and you'll find yourself just playing a lot more free. And when there's no pressure, I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I feel like more people do play better at that level when there's less pressure.
Yeah, agree. Totally agree. Well, let's hear a little word from our sponsor and get back onto some more pressure details. What do you reckon?
I like it. Well, let's talk at that high level and some things you can do to settle the nerves at the high end.
Steady.
What?
Be steady.
Oh, I didn't know what you said then.
What do you think I said?
I have no idea.
Steady.
All right, off to a sponsor.
After the sponsor.
And we're back. You mentioned something real quick in our break.
Yeah, it's just something about social tennis is something that's interesting. You think about like basketball. We all love other sports. We love all sports in general. Tennis is our chosen sport. But like basketball, you've got teammates and you socialize with them. That's the social part. Soccer, the same. But in tennis, it's interesting. You only socialize with your opponent.
When you play singles.
When you play singles.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Doubles, yes, a little bit with your partner. But because it's such a small group or pairing, if there's only a pairing, you generally start to socialize with the other side. So that's the encouraging part of when you first start playing. And that's why I recommend social tennis first to get the hang of scoring and stuff like that. But it's just interesting that I was watching your brother play one of my best mates, which you know very well, Tavish and Buster were playing last week. And they had like a really fun match. Like Buster was having fun. Tavish, they were talking not halfway through the point, but like in between points, in between games, like, oh, that serve was really good. Like, oh, I'm struggling out here, or this is tough, or I can't get that spin. They're just having a fun conversation while playing high level tennis.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. And that's the way tennis should be at that level. You know what I mean? At high level as well as all the way down. Whereas it can be a little bit intense if you both want the same thing. It's hard to be social when you both want the same thing.
Yeah, or if you just don't like your opponent.
Yeah.
That happens too.
Or you don't know them.
Yeah, it's also hard to, be super social. But I do agree. There is a level of, back and forth between your opponents that you wouldn't necessarily get in other sports. So
yeah.
Something that I always used to struggle with is finding the best ways to bring my best game out. In order to play well in matches, you obviously have to train well. And this is kind of focusing more on the mental game. It relates to match play, but not directly. And I'll explain what I mean. When I would play, I would never have problems with putting all my effort in. I'm a competitor, so as soon as something is on the line to compete with, I go to 100%. I'm not a good trainer.
Yeah,
I'm actually quite horrible when it comes to training. The thought of me rallying cross-court balls for 11 minutes makes me want to rip my hair out. I don't like it. I find it boring, repetitive, and I find it hard to give my all in a situation like that. But I understand the work that has to go in the training process in order to develop yourself as a player in matches. So what I used to have what to do, and I still do, every now and then when I train. I don't train much now. I don't play much now.
No, neither of us do.
But what I would do is I would put some sort of point play structure around my training. And this sounds bizarre, but even when I would play my practice matches, mostly against Buster, I would pretend that I was on Rod Laver Arena. I would literally act as though the TV cameras are on me. In my head, in between points, I would be saying to myself things that the commentators might be saying about the previous point just played. And I envision myself, almost watching myself on TV at an Australian Open match. You look up in the corner and that's my player's box and my parents are there, my wife's there, my friends are there.
I was wondering who you were pointing to.
Yeah, I know, it's weird. And when I was arguing with somebody,
I
was like, get me a towel. Come on. No, I'm kidding.
Stand up.
Everyone's looking at me walking their dog going, what is this guy doing?
He's talking to a spider in the corner. Stand up. I've got 8 legs. What do you want me to do?
Jeez, Paul, come on. But no, I would do that because it's a weird inner way of me firing up, because I know that if I'm under a competitive circumstance, especially when people are watching, that's when I give my best performance. So then when I go and play matches, it's just so easy. But I kind of relate it to what Nick always says, because Nick always says that he has no problems performing to the highest level of his abilities when he's got a crowd and there's excitement and watching. The last thing he wants to do is go to, I don't know, Kazakhstan Open. No offense, Kazakhstan, but Kazakhstan Open.
Which is lovely, apparently.
Playing a challenger with 2 people in the crowd and no atmosphere. I don't blame him. I can understand it.
Totally get it.
So it's hard, but you've got to come up with these little mental tricks in order for you to perform. And I'm sure there's ways you can do that in matches too. Maybe even flip it. Maybe if you don't like the pressure, you can. It's kind of like that, when people are doing public speaking and they tell you, oh, just imagine everyone in the crowd naked and you get less embarrassed.
Yeah, I thought they were wearing pumpkins.
Yeah, okay. Well,
it makes it easier for me.
Okay. Never fledged about rest. But it's the same sort of thing. If you're opposite to me and when you play a match, maybe you don't like the pressure, you need to imagine like there's nobody there. You need to imagine
it's a
like
practice session.
Nobody's watching you. How many kids do you know that you coach hate playing when they've got other friends, relatives, parents, coaches watching the match play worse because they're always looking up?
I would say actually less these days. I would say probably 15, 20 years ago, I would say 50-50. I'd go 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
I think nowadays kids actually like the crowd. Don't know if it's a social media thing or internet thing or whatever, but like I would say, I'd say about 70% like a crowd. They like people to watch and not show off, but you know what I mean? Like put on a show or engage that way. So they prefer it when you come and watch and play.
But there's still those people who don't enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what the point of this was, is that if you don't enjoy it, you've still got to find ways mentally to switch that off.
Yeah.
So have you got any tricks to like shut out the distractions around you?
Well, there's a lot of little simple tricks you can do. Like if you want to shut the crowd out from the outside or people on the outside or the outside environment, you got to keep your head down. So there's a physical attribute to it. So I find like if I'm keeping my head down, I'm just looking at my strings and my opponent. I just keep everything about that. So there's a power of not imagination, but creative thinking. Like you obviously see Rod Laver Arena, like you're in there when you do that. You have to do kind of the opposite. It's just a practice court. There's no one on the outside. There's no sound. There's nothing. It's just the court and the ball. There was a really cool movie, very old movie. I think it was with Kevin Costner. He's the baseball pitcher.
Oh, is that Field of Dreams?
Yes, I think it's the one. Is that when he pitches the perfect game at the end? Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
I haven't seen it for a long time.
So he does this thing. He says, I don't know. He says, cut the circuit, I think he said. And basically, he's there with a huge crowd of baseball fans there. It's the World Series. And everything just goes, whoosh, obviously, with cinema. So completely soundless. And so in his mind, he does that.
It's just quiet.
It's just quiet. So all he sees is the batter and the target.
Just tunnel vision.
So he has his little thing, cut the circuit, I think he said was what it was. I don't know what that means. It's
we should make a shirt out of that. Cut the circuit.
Cut the circuit. Well, I want to get the quote right first before we do that. Because
it might be something nothing.
It could be like peel the bikini.
Yeah, look at the pumpkin.
It's always the pumpkin. So
it makes sense. You got to find your own little tips and tricks. I think that either you're one way or the other. You either love the crowd, or you love the pressure and the hype, or you hate it.
Yeah.
And you just got to find little tricks around. So I think what you said is perfect, is shutting it off and focusing on one or two things. I think having little habits is cool.
Yes.
I always think about Leighton Hewitt when he had his habits, like he would always straighten his strings.
Yes.
And fix his
the
shirt
routines,
up.
yeah.
He would have the routines, and that kind of keeps him in the zone. Whereas someone like Nick, again, he looks at the crowd and fires him up. And it's two different people playing two different ways, and it works for both of them. So you just got to find what works for you.
That's two very extremes, isn't it? I think Hewitt and Nick, both very competitive guys.
Yeah.
Extremely competitive guys. Very patriotic guys too.
Mind you, Hewitt did love the crowd. Maybe someone more like, I don't know, I can't even think of Nadal because he does a lot of OCD habits. But I'm trying to think of someone who just sort of stays in the lane, doesn't really get affected by the crowd. But without getting right into it, I think find your own little trick on how to get in your little zone.
Yeah.
Whether you're imagining things or you're taking things away from the outside. Less pressure you want, more pressure you want. You've got to adapt and find your zone.
And the thing is, what's interesting, people talk about pressure points, and you find like there's like different levels of pressure within the point. Like the only pressureless point, I think, it may be 40 love, maybe.
Nah, even then, man.
Even then, like you lose 1 point. Oh, okay, well, it's 40-15. I still got a bit of time. Or it's 40-30 now. Oh, no. So I think there's so many, every situation is a pressure point, and I think you just got to play each point for its value at the time as best you can. So, but I think at the base of it, you've nailed it. I think it's just like, it's either you like the crowd or like the surroundings, or you need to zone in and stay in your own space.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the secret, I think.
Okay. So things to take away today, guys. Let's make sure that, again, if you're playing at that entry level, trust your game.
Yep.
Figure out how you want to play. Don't be scared to miss, and be aware that movement and tracking is going to unlock a absolute power that you never understood.
Exactly. And enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't quit.
Yes.
Just stick with it. Stick with it.
Don't
it is worth it.
quit.
And then for that higher level, like we said, find a way to either shut off your surroundings or enhance your surroundings in order to get you in your best playing zone.
That's perfect.
Oh, what a way to wrap it up.
Why don't you get a T-shirt on those things? Yeah?
Maybe.
Got to get the quote right, though.
Yeah, we do.
Cut the circuit.
You want to go watch Field of Dreams?
Peel the pumpkin. Yes, I do. It's a good movie.
No worries. Then we can watch Cinderella. It's got a pumpkin in it. There you
It
go.
does, yeah. That's probably what I'm thinking about.
Okay. All right, wrap it up. Let's go.
Am I wrapping up again?
Yeah, come on.
Okay. Well, everyone, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe below or send a comment. There's a button somewhere on the screen. Is that correct, Nelson? No, he's
Sure.
shaking his head like
Yeah,
it's
sure.
completely wrong.
Press any key to continue.
Yes. Please subscribe. And I hope you enjoyed today's show. And if there's anything you want to talk about, please don't forget, let us know in the comments below. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. But for now, this is Reza and Nelson signing
Out.
Yay!
Good job, Robert.